and welcome to another edition of Witch Hat Chats, presented by the ever moving We Rise Witten Shrine, the Life and Soul Holistic Center, and Moonlight Potions and Charms. Known as the Witchy Ones, I am your host, Nikki Kirby, and Pam Griffith is our co host. Yay, Pam!
Hey, welcome.
So, Pam, did you know about the Facebook deciding that Moonlight Potions and Charms Hecate candle was too sexy?
Oh my, too sexy. The dog, the little dog was so
Yes,
sexy.
yes, it's the little dog that's too sexy. So let me show it here to everybody so everybody will know what we are talking about.
Yeah, I want to know where the censors' minds are at this point in time because see, look how sexy that little doggy looks there. Just look at that. And
Yeah,
maybe it's a snake. Now maybe the snake is too sexy. The
everybody
broom,
thinks it was the broom too. The broom can make it
broom.
really look sexy. I mean, a woman, especially a witch, looks really sexy with a broom. Really, really.
Really? Does that mean I should carry a broom with me everywhere I go? If that would work, honey, I would carry a broom. Trust me.
Pam, don't you fly on one of those things?
Yeah, on occasion. I really don't understand. And I'm going to be honest, on the old Bewitched, and everybody remembers Bewitched, the cartoon of Elizabeth Montgomery on her little broom was a lot more sexy than that.
Yes. And so what Moonlight Potions and Charms decided was they renamed it to the Sexy Hecate Prayer Candle. And in honor of that, they're going to have 15% off of this one candle. So you can go to www.moonlightpotionscharms.com to be able to celebrate our goddess, our queen of witchcraft, the sexy Hecate.
Let me tell you guys, since we are banned, this might be your only chance to get this sexy Hecate, since we cannot advertise the sexiness
Oh,
of
yeah.
Hecate.
Oh, yes.
Yes, it really makes one wonder, doesn't it, guys? Like, who could look at that and never mind? I'm not even going to go there. That is absolutely ridiculous. It's just craziness. It really is. I can't even see it unless it's a little dog. Like I said, remember the witch on The Wizard of Oz and your little dog too? There you go.
Well, Johnsons are known to be manipulators. You
Yes,
know, they're known for that. The little sneaky little devils. I have
that
one, so I know.
that must be what it is. It's a little too sexy. We're gonna have to cut back on the doggy sexiness. Okay. Oh Lord!
Oh,
Just when you thought it couldn't get any weirder.
yeah. So, what is going on at the ever moving We Rise Witten Shrine, Miss Pam?
Well, you know what? We're taking new applications, new membership applications. This time of year, everybody gets that urge to feel witchy sexy. Ooh, let's call on Hecate. Come on, girl, bring a little sexy down here. And we're accepting new membership applications, so that would be really awesome. This would actually be pay for somebody's membership, a nice little gift early, because our Samhain ritual is October 25th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All of our times are Eastern Standard Time. So pop on to the shrine and see about a membership, fill out the application. This is a nice gift you can give someone. And stop in on our ritual. Do not have to be a member to stop in for our rituals. And we have some pretty good rituals. We had a great one last night. We had a lot of people there last night.
Yeah, we did. And you know what? Somebody had given me a picture of your last Samhain ritual. And
Oh,
so I'm going to show. And in this one, Pam was doing her Phoenix dance in this one. And so here we go.
oh, hey, that
Oh,
does look
fire.
like one of mine. Yeah, I'm telling you, yep, I can catch anything on fire during a ritual. Those that have been to my rituals will tell you that. Oh, that's cute. That is really cute.
Pam, I've got news for you. The spider survived.
Probably with my luck, of course it did. That's the kind of, I'm the one that catches the roads on fire, caught my hair on fire, you name it, I caught it on fire. I melted a whole table. The plastic fold-up tables do melt, by the way. True story.
Yeah, they do. They
They
do.
they melt. But no, that'd be great. You guys, Samhain rituals coming up. I will not promise what will happen or won't happen, so you never know.
That's true. And we also have our auction that we're still doing, the Dark Mysteries auction. You know, Pam, we actually, both of us have offered to do a 30-minute reading, and I'm going to tell you guys, Pam is excellent when it comes to doing any type of divination. Her insight is immense. It is, I mean, because she's old, of course she's going to have, really good insight. I had to say
You had to put that in there. The old hag. Nikki's not too bad herself. Don't let her fool you. And guys, we're giving 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a good reading, and the price is really inexpensive. Um, Even on the psychic fair, our prices are higher for less.
yes.
So I'm pushing that one. And I understand that you and Tim Ravenwolf Greenfield are getting together again.
I know, isn't that scary?
Yes, it is.
We are doing the Moonlight Emporium videos, and it's only going to be on Magic TV, and that's where YouTube is. We show and comment on various products that our vendors at the Halloween Socket Fair have. It's a really good show. It's very new. It's a great way to see what our vendors have, how we support our local pagan business community. And it's one of those great things because we have a lot of fun on the show as well. And so I'm giving two workshops the Halloween Saga Fair. The first one is entitled Fact or Fiction, Werewolves Fact or Fiction. And it's on October 28th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And basically, it's a way of exploring this child of the night, including the history, the lore, and possible scientific explanations. And then my intensive workshop, Death, My Friend, My Ally, was changed into October 29th, which is at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so we're going to discuss the non-prejudice, excuse me, I can't speak today, the non-prejudice entity and how it can become your friend and ally. So if you're going to do that, plus, as I was saying, Pam and I are giving readings as well. So you don't want to miss any of that. Plus, we have nightly broadcasts, and the Ouija board debates are absolutely fun to learn from, and they're also hilarious as well. So if you want more information, visit www.halloweensocketfair.com for that information.
Make sure you hit that Moonlight Emporium one too, because it's really hard now with COVID to actually see and touch products because a lot of stores are not open. And Nikki and Tim are actually kindling and showing you things that are on there and giving you a greater insight as to what you can use them for. So that's really important nowadays. And remember, Yule is around the corner, guys. I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, especially if you order something, you got to allow that 2 weeks for shipping. You've got what, 60 days maybe to
I
start
don't
that
think
Yule
you even got
shopping.
that long, for it.
No,
And they're saying that you really need to start ordering. I mean, Amazon had its Prime Day, what, the 13th and the 14th.
and that
And
was a disaster.
right, and since we are not allowed to go into a lot of shops and we're trying to stay safe, which keep your animals safe, especially your little black cats or black dogs during this time of the year, and also keep
813.
yourself safe as well because we wear a mask and everything. But
8133.
a lot of people are going to be ordering online this year versus the previous years. So just you got to give the people time to get it in the mail. You got to give the postal service time to get it sent to you, because until we actually develop the transportation system off of Star Trek, which will be awesome, by the way. We need to give people time to get things done, and sometimes, especially when it's homemade items, you need to give them time to get that done. So
And you
order
want
early.
to And you want to shop local. Come on, let's keep our community alive and well. Our community, like everybody else, is suffering without having, people come up. A lot of the vendors go to the local shows and the local gatherings. We're not having them this year. So pay back to your local pagan communities. Buy local, order from a pagan vendor, you know, where that money's going. It's not a box store. It's not going to somebody's CEO's pocket. This is going to pay for somebody, their mortgage, dinner for that night. So keep that thought in mind. You want to shop local and shop small. So just keep us in mind and look for the smaller stuff. And another great thing about the smaller shops are you're going to get unique items you're not going to get anywhere else. So you're not going to get a cookie cutter gift for somebody. You're going to get something very uniquely theirs. And if you need any help on that, Nikki is great at putting together some beautiful, beautiful altars to go. And that's something, that is very unique. And your altar is your specialty. So give Nikki a call, let her put one together for you because they are really great. I am traveling today. I am in Conway, South Carolina, which is just outside of Myrtle Beach. So I've had to travel and we did ritual last night. So and I did ritual at Myrtle Beach. So guys, altars to go are the way to go. You can just pop that little thing in your suitcase and boom, you got everything you need to pop out and do a ritual. So get online and get to looking at some of that. And again, Yule is around the corner. I just cannot emphasize that enough because this year has like boom gone by.
It has, and plus the readings. If you give a reading as well to people, that's really good too. But it is time to introduce our guest host.
All
Miss
right.
Pam, who is our guest host today?
Well, you notice the hats we're wearing today. Look real close. We have our little skull hats on. This is for our favorite guest. We have somebody awesome on. Our guest magic comes from a variety of traditions, including Celtic, Afro-Caribbean, and Native American spiritualities. Her magical training includes a variety of Santeria, voodoo religions, and since 1991, she has been the editor-publisher of Ocean Africa Magical Quarterly. She's a filmmaker of an extraordinary documentary, Bodies of Water, Voodoo Identity and Transformation, an author. I don't know where she finds the time, but she's also written books. The author of Orishas, Goddesses, and Voodoo Queens. And she's got another book out. I mean, my goodness, she's just pumping them out. And we are very, very proud to present Voodoo Priestess Lilith Dorsey.
Yay!
Hi, thank you so much for having me on, Nikki and Pam. I'm so happy. I don't have my witch hat, but I have my tiny witch hat decorating over here. So
there we go.
I'm with you in spirit.
You've just been so busy. My goodness. You just had another book come out. I'm very excited. But a lot of people, when they find out you're pagan, their first question is, what tradition brought you to magic?
I mean, I think in a way I was always magical. My parents named me Lilith, which people always are like, no, what's your real name? And I'm like, it's Lilith. That's the one they gave me. I mean, I don't have anything against magical names, but that's the one they gave me. So I think I always had a connection to the goddess, a connection to Lilith specifically. You were talking before about Bewitched. I grew up watching Bewitched and putting spells on, people at school and my family, and conjuring in the living room, So I think I knew there were witches. I think I felt the goddess. I always tried to use magic in a way to sort of transform what was happening around me because I had a really traumatic early childhood. So I think that kind of magic stepped in and helped me get through it. And that's a story I hear over and over again from people. But I never had, I went to a traditional school. I mean, I went to Lutheran school. I know the Bible about as well as anybody who claims to be a Christian. So when people try and attack me with that, I'm like, well, actually, so it's something that was always, I felt like, in my blood too. You know, we were talking before the show about Celtic tradition and Scottish and Welsh, and my grandmother was Scottish and Welsh, and her maiden name was Holborn, which comes from the goddess Hel, and you know, so born of Hel or Hala. So I'm like, wow, look at this. There's like magic on all sides coming to me, and I just really knew it was there, and it was a matter of letting everybody else know that I knew it was there. And that's always the struggle, right?
Yeah, it really is. Another thing, and this is years ago, and I can say this because I'm old, most pagans were not of science. They were more spiritual, but it seems like a lot of us now have our degrees in all different fields. You've got lawyers and doctors and psychologists now that are all taking the pagan path. And your formal studies were in plant science and anthropology. I love anthropology. I'm a Joseph Campbell freak. So, but which one did you feel was more influential in your magical path? The plant, which is herbology, and I mean, that's a really big field for pagans, or anthropology, which is the study of who we are.
I think anthropology really, because it taught me a different way of looking at things. I did my undergrad at URI, and then my grad work I did at NYU, which was sort of a visual anthropology documentary program. So half of our stuff was film and cinema and TV studies, and the other half was anthro. But it taught me a way of really looking at things. And about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I went back. We have like reunions for the program and everything. And a good friend of mine, he had been traveling since we were in school. So for 20 years, he'd been traveling back and forth to the Amazon to talk to the indigenous people and learn their ways and sort of report. And the last time he went back with cameras. And he said to them, you know, it's not my story to tell. It's your story to tell. I'm going to give you these cameras. So they made him be the evil white man colonizer, and they robbed him in the movie. And he had to speak bad Spanish. And he did it. And that's what he's been teaching ever since he got back. And to me, anthropology just gave me that idea of respect. You know, I mean, Nikki was talking about Star Trek, this whole idea of non-intervention. Like if you worship this way and I worship this way, and both ways are right for us. And it's not about bias or prejudice or appropriation or any of that. It's about allowing people to discover who they really are and being respectful of that at its core. And that's what I think anthropology taught me. But plants, I just love plants too. So I can't I can't say that that doesn't help, you know, if I need to identify something, if I need to do a little bit of magic and I'm not, you know, like you said, the travel altar. What if I don't have my travel altar, or what if I'm not home? But if I look around, I can see what's growing around me and use that in my magic. So that's been really helpful too.
It's just fascinating. I'm seeing more and more professionals now. Now I'm loving it because for a long time pagans were considered, oh, pagans, and now we're coming in with bachelors and masters and doctorates, and we're going like, yeah, you can have that and still follow this path. Now I read up on some of your books, and I have to say I'm in love, and I'm doing a lot of reading. I love this. See, this is part of my job where I have to research. So this is my excuse to buy more books. 'Cause I need to research. Okay, so that's
Nice.
I'm sticking with it. The difference now, I'm from Baltimore originally. I lived there for about 50 years, and we do have a very large Udon group and voodoo group. So the difference between Udon and voodoo.
Well, Foudon or Vodou is traditionally Haitian. I'm familiar with some of the houses in Baltimore. I know one of my dear friends belonged to the house there for years, and that seemed more Haitian influenced. And that's the same way I lived in New York for most of my life. Most of the houses there are Haitian style houses. And basically what it is it's a completely different system of worship. There's different initiations, there's different studies, there's even different, well, depending on what you call them, gods, goddesses, spirits, but they call them Loa. And those are spirits that come and influence you. So we talk about the Loa Urzuli, who has to do with love and the waterfall, or we talk about the Loa Ogun, who has to do with, in some ways, the military and government and protecting people and the police and those kinds of things. So it really, but all different African traditional religions are a lifelong study. But I think the Haitian Vodou has a different system because Haiti was an isolated place. They were colonized by the French, so that makes it slightly different. And then they received independence in the late 1700s. So even though they were occupied for several times, the religion was allowed to develop in different ways than, say, in the United States, where we were, enslaved until 1865. So, they've got a good 70 years on us for allowing their religion to develop, without people, interfering in the same way. And New Orleans voodoo is kind of like a gumbo. It's a mix. It has to do with everything that the city has to do with. So in my temple and in my spiritual house, we have a lot of influences from the Spanish, from Cuba, from Santo or Lucumi or Santeria, depending on what you call it, because there was a large influx of those people in our worship. And it's kind of like, you can't uninvite that. If that's what somebody's ancestors did and that's what they're used to doing, that's what shows up at the table when you're honoring the ancestors. And we always do the ancestors first. So it was sort of out of respect, I think, that New Orleans voodoo grew to incorporate some of these other beliefs, because those were the beliefs of the people that found themselves at ceremonies and stuff like that here in the city. And for my house, our house is called the House of Mama Brigitte. And we do a lot of Mama Brigitte things. She's a Haitian Loa who has to do with foremothers and ancestors. But I have godkids that are Puerto Rican. So we do Santo things. I have godkids that have Irish heritage or Scottish heritage. So we also honor Brige in a way, separate, but different and still welcome at the table. And that's how I like to explain it.
And what was it like for you? I mean, what made you decide to become a voodoo priestess?
I think I didn't really have any other choice. One of my godmothers likes to say she doesn't initiate anybody till they don't have any other choice, because as much as people want to think it's all about, a power trip or looking pretty, or it's a lot of work. And I think, anybody who's clergy, you guys know that anybody who's clergy knows that it's a lot of work, because you have to be there for people at the most important parts of their life. So, maybe you don't feel like talking right then. Well, it doesn't really matter. If somebody really needs you, then you have to be there. And that's just something that I understood really at a deep level. But as I said, I had backgrounds in, other witchcraft and other kinds of things like that. But voodoo really spoke to me because it was a connection to the ancestors and also a connection to our dead. It was like they're still here with us. We honor them all the time. We still feed them. And that's something that I have so many people in my life that have passed. That was something that was really important to me, to still be able to have those people there in a different way, but still there.
And so, what is a spiritual house?
Basically, it's like a family. I call my kids God kids. That's more of what somebody would say in Santeria, even though we're a New Orleans voodoo house. But they really are like my kids. They come and help me when I need something, and I help them when they need something. One of them called me this week. They had a problem with their boss, so they call me. They have a problem in their love life, they call me. So and they help each other too, that it really is this sort of interdependence, the same way like a family. Now that doesn't mean we always get along just like a family too, but we come together for feast days, we come together for rituals, we come together for initiations. And I also like to instill in them the principle of Sankofa, which means to turn back or to look back. So if they've had an initiation, if they've learned something, it's their responsibility then to turn around and teach it to somebody new, even if it might take a little bit of extra time, or maybe, again, like a family, maybe it's somebody is just doesn't sit well with you and you don't get along with them. Well, tough. You got to go do it anyway, because that's what it is to be in a family. I didn't want to help my little sister because she was annoying, but all little sisters and little brothers are annoying, but you still have to help them, so it's that kind of a thing. You really have to stick together like a family and pull together like a family, because there's stuff that needs to be done. 3 years ago, we did the main closing ritual for New York City Pagan Pride, which was the first time they'd ever had voodoo ritual there. It was the first time that I really saw so many Black people and people of color at a ritual. And that just made me so happy. But it was so difficult. I mean, I think people who don't live in a city don't really understand this, but they said to me, they were like, no open flame, which to me, I was like, we're outside, but all right, okay, I'll do what I can with that. And then they said, no, because what we usually do is we do, I guess they're called veves, but people might recognize them as similar to sigils, but they're like just, symbols and stuff like that that we do on the ground, either in cornmeal or coffee, and we lay out these patterns and then we dance on top of them. And the contract with the park was, you can't put anything on the ground. I was like, cornmeal? Like, it'll blow away. It's natural. It'll biodegrade. No. I was like, what about chalk? No, you're not allowed to chalk on the ground. So it was really a creative challenge. How are we going to have these things we need for ritual without having these things we need for ritual? So we pulled it off, though. It was great. It was wonderful. We did it on a cloth, and we just picked everything up and took it home with us, and we made it happen. But
Yeah.
I'm really grateful to my god kids. Some of them have been with me for over a decade, and I really love them all, and hopefully they love me too.
I think they do. I really truly think they do. It is difficult at times, especially when, like you said, when you go into somebody's property or somebody's, home or something, and you want to have a candle there, or you want to have some type of flame, and they say, oh, no flames. And so you have to sit there and think, well, we got LED lights, but it's still not the same, as an actual flame. But we all get through it, and I believe that our gods and goddesses understand that. Ah,
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
right, right. So, could you explain to us what the OSHA, is that
Oshun.
Ocean, what they are? Because I understand that they're not considered to be gods or goddesses; that they're considered to be excuse me, some sort of type of spirit. Can I explain that,
Oh, okay. So you're talking about the Orisha.
Arisha? Thank you.
It's okay. Uh, so the Orisha, literally, it breaks down into two words: Ori, which means head, and Sha, which is kind of the same root word as the word Ashe, which is the universal life force, spirit, energy, that kind of thing. So basically, what it means is head energy or head spirit. That's how it breaks down. But I think people don't like to call them gods or goddesses because a lot of people in these systems are also Christian. So they don't want to break that taboo of having one higher monotheistic God. So these are sort of worshiped more the same way that saints are worshiped within the Christian faith. And a lot of times you'll see them even represented by saint candles. And I think that, again, that's not appropriation or blending. It was more out of necessity because for so many years it was illegal to worship this way, but it wasn't illegal to light a candle for the Virgin Mary. So we could honor the mother goddess or the Orisha Yemaya in the form of the Virgin Mary candle. And that's how they sort of had a little cheat back and round away. So nobody really knew what they were doing because in almost all the Caribbean countries that these religions were practiced, there were laws against it and people were persecuted and, really punished for these in horrible ways, horrible ways. So the Orisha sort of form as a barrier between us and, the good God or the gods that are up there higher above the Orisha, but they're the ones who you really go to on a day-to-day basis if you need help with something. It comes from the word Orisha in the sense that if you have an initiation and you go forward in the religion and you need to have a reading just to know, not everybody needs to get initiated. I think people need to hear that because they think everybody has to rush out and get initiated and get to the top of the line. But it's not like that. Some people don't ever need to do that. Some people just need to, stay present and do a minimum. And some people need to do a whole lot. But comes a point in the tradition where you get a head reading and they will tell you who your head Orisha is. And sometimes you get a mother and a father head Orisha. Sometimes you get what's called a head and a feet. It depends on what different spiritual house you're in and what their practices are. But a lot of people send me messages, oh, can you do this? No, you need 3 priests to do it. It needs to be done in person. People are trying to sell it online for $100 or something like that. And that's not really how it works. It's really has to be done. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, it's very difficult, but it really does have to be done in person and as part of a ceremony that people go through. But that's what an Orisha is. It's like a guardian energy that rules your head or rules your feet and really shapes your destiny and your existence and how you see the world and how you navigate the world.
Oh, that's nice. It's sort of like they're kind of like the gatekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for explaining that, because the way that literature has it is it's very confusing. It's like, okay, but they're not considered gods, but they're kind of godly, but they're not considered, especially when you get people who come from like witchcraft, where
Right.
we go directly to our god. But now, with voodoo and other African religions, you have a gatekeeper that you got to go through. And
Yes.
and a lot of us don't seem to understand. You have to go through that gatekeeper in order to get to, whoever you want to get to.
Right. And I think the difference from witchcraft is that if you look at somebody like the Orisha Shango, there's evidence of him going back to 4000 BCE. So for the past 5,000 years, people have been worshiping this Orisha in the same way. So I appreciate that people want to say that, oh, well, Shango came to me in a dream and I should do this. And, that's nice. But, the same way, if you've never cooked before, it could come to you in a dream how to make a cake, but I wouldn't want to eat it. And, like, you need a recipe, there's a way to do things. And that's really just what it is. It's not anything against someone's dream. I'm really happy you had a dream, but there's still a way that these things need to be done in order to be successful, in order for it to taste good, to continue my metaphor, and in order for everybody to be happy about it.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
I have a question now. You've brought up a lot of different paths that are following. I know that I'm first generation Italian American, so it's Strega for us. It's a little bit different here and there. Um, but I would love to hear an explanation of the differences between a couple traditions, because I see them get mixed up so often, and people tend to insert one for the other. And I know they're different, and you want to honor those differences because it is not the same. Italian witchcraft is a little different from Celtic witchcraft in nuances, maybe, but it's a different flavor. I like to put everything in flavors. I cook a lot, so everything
Yeah.
for me is a flavor of something. I was looking at the voodoo, the Santeria, and I'm going to probably screw these up, so I'll let you know ahead of time. Obea and Knoble. Probably get
Obea.
those wrong.
Obea is right, or Obea.
And
It's
it's
Jamaican.
Candomble.
Candomblé.
Candomble. Same.
Candomblé. That's Brazilian. So like you're talking about different flavors. Here we're talking, it's the same concept, because Jamaica obviously is Obea. We were talking earlier that you like snakes. The word actually comes from Obi, which means snake. So in Belize and in Jamaica, where they were colonized by British people, Celtic people, you got a lot of snake worship, which is interesting because you don't get that in the other African traditional religions. But that is definitely a different flavor, the same way that if you go to Jamaica, the food will be very different than if you go to Cuba. I've been to Jamaica. You can see Cuba from Jamaica, but it's very different, the same way that the language is different. We're talking about people speaking Spanish instead of speaking English. We're talking about the religion, obviously, is different. There you will get Santeria, which is actually the common name that people call it, but the proper name for it is La Regla Lacumi, or sometimes you'll hear people say Santo, just that they're in Santo, that they're in with the saints. And that's different in the same way that it was a Spanish colony and not an English colony, or not a French colony. So that has its own nuances. It also picked up the character of the people that were there. So if we're talking about Cuba or Puerto Rico and Santeria, there's a lot of Taino influences in there from the indigenous people that come from those lands. Those were different indigenous people than you would find in Jamaica, than you would find in Haiti, than you would find in New Orleans. All of these, it blended in different ways because I think, unfortunately, a lot of times the indigenous people and the Black people and the people of color were at the low end of the spectrum for socioeconomic things. They were often, lived in the same areas. They were treated the same way or similarly. So some of the religious things got blended together. And you mentioned candomblé, that's Brazil. So here we go, it's a Portuguese colony. So you've got the Portuguese influence there. And you've got this whole, it's very influenced by Spiritism and Kardec, because there were a lot of Mesmer. There were all those people in the 1800s that went to Brazil and started doing seances and mediumship and stuff like that. So when you look at candomblé, there's a lot more of that in the religion than if you look at it in Cuba. Those things are kind of separate. They're even, they don't happen at the same time. It'll be like you'll have the white table misa in the morning where people will, talk to the dead, and then you'll have the ceremony, the Santo ceremony later, but it's completely separate. Whereas there's more blending and sort of a flow with it going on in candomblé. The language is different, like I just said, so there's slightly different. And then what they needed was different too. So if we're talking about Orisha or Loa or the energies that they're worshiping, those are different as well, because you get somebody, which is in the Orishas and Goddesses book, Nana Boloklu. She is worshipped way more in Brazil than she is in Cuba. And I think, again, this just has to do with more of their society being geared towards that energy, needing her energy, needing her strength. And in Cuba, they needed something else. So I had a friend of mine, he wrote an 800-page annotated bibliography in 6-point type. The thing is gigantic. And it lists every book that he wrote it, I think, in the 80s, the early 80s. It lists every book he could find on the African traditional religions, candomblé and Vodou and everything like that. And he told me, he used to write my reviews, he said, I could spend the rest of my life studying this and still not only scratch the surface. So it is confusing. And for people who are trying to understand 6 different traditions at a time, it's going to be even more confusing, because you're talking about not just the language of the religion, you're also talking about the language from where it came to begin with. In Haiti, a lot of those practices came from Dahomey, which is now Benin. And that's in West Africa, but it's very different from the Yoruba, which is where a lot of the practices for Santo and Lukumi came from. So it's a completely different people. It's a completely different language, both in the New World and back in Africa. So it's very complicated.
I noticed, and I've seen this in the years I've been doing this, that in order to really, I mean, we now have to Zoom. I know that this is going to be the future. I hope not. Um, when I was starting out 50 years ago, it was like you were in person, you were attached to this person and learning. I see a lot of things now, and I know it's the fly by nights. I'm granting you that. We try to educate our audience as well. But there are those now that are saying, well, you can become a whatever over Zoom. Do you think that we could actually teach these things over Zoom, or is it you have to be there in person?
We have a saying, a Yoruba saying, that means you can't get awo from a book, which means you can't get spiritual knowledge from a book. And I think it also, even though I write books and I do Zoom workshops, I think you can get it intellectually, but nothing is going to take the place of actually doing it, of actually physically having your body there and doing it. And I think that's going to be a real challenge for people to figure out how to do this with a pandemic, with everything else going on, because it's just not the same, unfortunately. unfortunately. It's not the same. It's like I could hug somebody virtually over Zoom. It's not the same. Like the little
No.
endorphins don't go off in my brain and all the rest of it. So I don't think the physical changes that need to happen are really happening unless you're there in the place. And one of the first initiations I do for my godchildren, there's like a bath that they get in all different sacred waters and herbs and flowers, and all of us sing for them and dance for them, and really sort of cleanse their old life and bring them into the new life. And I don't know how I would do that online. You could it's like, how could you birth yourself? You can't really birth yourself. Can I give birth over a Zoom call? No, not really. Like the baby still has to come out right here where I am.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I know because I'm old school. I'll be the first to admit it. You've got to be there. Got to be able to touch you, and I was seeing there's a lot of stuff going on now because of the pandemic, and people are doing this. Oh, online, we can get you this. You can be this, you can be that, you can be anything. But like you, I got to touch somebody. They got to be right here where I can just touch, feel, get that energy, taste, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, it's going to be a very different experience. That's not saying that people can't do anything while we're in this time. I mean, I
Oh,
think that's one of the small joys we can actually take out of this, that it's forced us to be creative in new ways. It's forced us to do different things. And no, maybe you can't have an initiation the way you would with 20, 50. I've done ritual with 10,000 people. We can't do that anymore. But maybe we can do it with 2 people and a mask. Maybe we can do it with, two
yes.
people and 2 other people 6 feet away. Like I think we just have to think of new ways to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of where we seem to be right now. Like I said, I'm old school. I'm one of the old ones. So, I'm like, oh, can we even teach online? With that, we're going to take our quick break. This guest host, it's time for our music song. I'll get it straight. Yep. Each week, Nikki and I pick a song from a pagan musician or a band, and we display it because now they can't get out and you can't hear their music. You don't know if they've got anything new out. And it's also a way of promoting that you can go to their sites and see their music and listen to it. And today we're doing a song by a musical group that will appear on our show in November. Yay. It's Temple of the Drum, Afrique by Dragon Ritual Drummers. So, Nikki, if you're ready to take it away.
Greetings, I'm Lady Nikki Kirby. You may recognize my voice from Witch Hat Chats. It is a privilege to be participating in the Halloween Psychic Fair. Creatures of the night, werewolves fascinate us. They are throughout our history, lore, and popular culture. For instance, did you know that there were werewolf trials? Discover why they fascinate us so much in my workshop, Werewolves, Fact or Fiction. To register, please visit www.halloweenpsychicfair.com. I look forward to meeting you. Have an amazing day. October is here, and you know what that means. We pagans get on our broomsticks and gather together during the witching hour. One of the biggest problems us pagans face is that we have very little space. And how do you keep our altars with us? Don't fret, because at Moonlight Potions and Charms, we have the passion in designing products that will help you to embrace the power of your own magic. With the tap of the wand, the altar on the go contains everything you need to set up your magical altar, even in the smallest of spaces. Or the altar on the go, ultimately wicked special edition, jam-packed with more items for your magical needs. Our new arrivals include altars designed to honor the Voodoo Queen, Madame Marie Laveau, Santa Morte, as well as our beloved ancestors. There is so much more in our Wicked store to help you embrace the power of your own magic. So come on in to Moonlight Potions and Charms at www.moonlightpotioncharms.com and discover the wicked things that ignite the magical passion in you. Curious about the products our vendors have for the Halloween Psychic Fair? Check out Moonlight Emporium, hosted by Nikki Kirby and Kim Ravenwood Greenfield. Join us as we discuss and comment on various magical products presented by our vendors. Tune in on the YouTube channel Magic TV for more information. With the solar season comes life, death, and transformation. What is it in your life that you're missing and no longer serves you? Do you feel you were born to do something more? Discover your life's passion and purpose and more at the Laughing Soul Holistic Center, where our classes, coaching sessions, and readings are specially designed to assist and support you with your transition and transformation. Emerge into your authentic self and become the person you were meant to be. Visit us at www.laughingsoul.com and discover how to live the soulful life. Greetings, I'm Lady Nikki Kirby. You may recognize my voice from Witch Hat Chats. It is a privilege to be participating in the Halloween Psychic Fair. The entity known as death is a universal constant that is often misunderstood. It comes in various forms, and we experience it on a daily basis. Discover how to tap into this powerful magic to transform your life in my workshop called Death, My Friend, My Ally. To register, please visit www.halloweenpsychicfair.com, and I look forward to meeting you. Have an amazing day. Have questions about Wicca, witchcraft, goddess, god, authentic self, or paganism in general? At the Ever Moving We Rise Wit and Shrine, we welcome all questions concerning Wicca, witchcraft, goddess, god, authentic self, and paganism. There is no judgment here, as we realize everyone's path is uniquely personal. We are all about emerging the authentic self as we walk in alignment with spirits. We recognize our shrine as a living, breathing organism, and as such, you are welcome to join us as we celebrate the Sabbath, Escort, goddess, god, our authentic selves in our monthly rituals, events, and classes. Visit us at our website or Facebook page and discover what magically distinguishes us from the crowd. All right, welcome back to Witch Hat Chats. And Pam and I are talking with the lovely, the wonderful Lilith Dorsey. Awesome. So, Lilith, your film Bodies of Water, Voodoo, Identity, and Transformation was shown at your alma mater in Harvard. So, how did that come about?
I just want to start by saying thank you so much for playing the Dragon Ritual Drummers. They're family. Like, I have known them for 2 decades, and Utu even has a piece in my water magic book. So it's like old home week. I was dancing around in my bedroom. So, but okay, so my films, it was interesting. At the first time I showed them at NYU, was part of the documentary production classes that I was in and things like that. And then I also showed it later as part of a Afro-Sicilian film panel, because apparently there were two other women who had gone to NYU that were also Afro-Sicilian like me. So go Strega. And we got together and we did a panel and I got to show it. So that was really fascinating. And the Harvard was part of a conference on, magic and witchcraft that I got to participate in several years ago. And I never honestly thought I was going to get a chance to speak at Harvard. So that was really wonderful. And to have people see my films. And it was really an exploration of New Orleans voodoo and my connection to it. And it's called Bodies of Water. And I made it the year before Katrina. So it was interesting to me because what it is now is like a snapshot of what voodoo in New Orleans was before all of that stuff happened. So it really talks about water on a deep level. And I think when I had to do the water magic book, I was sort of curious because Llewellyn asked me to write it and I never felt very watery at all. Like I'm a fire sign and a air rising and air moon. So it's just like, what? I'm supposed to write about water? What? But I think I've always had a connection to the water, even if it's not necessarily in my horoscope chart, but in my magic, because water's all around us and water's in us. And making the documentary, it was a way for people to understand, because they might not understand voodoo, but they can understand how they feel when they go to the river and they sit there and they really feel that energy coming off the waves. And that I think it's universal. And that's part of what my magic always was for me, that I needed to have it be understood by somebody who's 2 or 102. It has to be some concept that's so deep and abiding and sublime that it translates across ages, it translates across languages. And that's something that I tried to do with the film. And actually, that also has music from the Dragon Ritual Drummers in it, now that I think about it.
So where can people go and be able to see it? Is it online or?
They can email me. I'm still in the works of getting a distributor for it and things like that. But there's plenty of other stuff to see on my YouTube channel. It's full of things. I just started a new TV show called The Pop Culture Show, which is a critique of pop culture and the occult, with my friend Jason Winslade, who is a PhD in performance studies and has been lecturing about paganism and the occult for 2 decades almost now. So
Awesome.
That is really awesome. Now, you mentioned Sicilian, close to my heart. I'm first generation Italian American. We all know if you're Italian, even a little bit, there has got to be cooking in your background. It is in your blood. You cannot get rid of it. You are born with olive oil in it. You have an awesome book out, and I tell you, I'm the biggest food person out there. I actually have a master chef degree, so I love to
nice.
cook. And your book out, the African American Ritual Cookbook, I have to ask, I know you're Sicilian, so it's there. How did you put that together?
It was just so I cook, obviously, like you said, I grew up cooking. I grew up Sunday cooking, gravy and all of that. And I really think it's something that everyone in my family really loved and everybody really embraced. I appreciate you have a master chef degree. My daughter went to Cornell to restaurant school. I was like, wow, we went and got the Ivy League degree for restaurants and things like that. And she's managing a very successful restaurant in Nashville, 2 of them actually. So she's doing really well, and food is very important to everybody. But I just wanted some sort of a legacy, you know what I mean? Like, talking about being women of a certain age, we grew up without recipes. Like I could cook everything that I need to cook without looking at anything at all, because I've done it my whole life. I didn't just make it up. Somebody taught me. And before I could even stand up, I was helping to do whatever needed to be done. So, but I realize now that's one of these things that people don't really understand. When my daughter was little, I was her scout leader. I'm still a scout leader, actually, because you're a scout leader, you're a scout leader for life. So I was teaching them their outdoor cook badge. So I got a bunch of 8-year-old girls, and they've got to cook 3 different ways outside, like fire, propane and charcoal. And I'm looking at them, and my daughter was the only one that was allowed to cook at all. There was one other girl that could use the microwave, and the rest of them couldn't make a single thing at 8 years old. And I was like, you're 8 years old, like that's old enough to be able to, I mean, with supervision, but it's certainly old enough to be able to go in the kitchen and be able to make yourself something. So I realized that there was this whole generation, my daughter's age, who didn't really know how to cook. My daughter's name is Aria. She said even when she went to Cornell, they had a cooking class, and she'd be the one that came up with the recipes, because the rest of her friends would be standing there like, I don't know what to make. We have all these ingredients. To me, it would have been like a dream, right? Like you're on those TV shows. You've got the warming draw, and you've got all of these things and like all these ingredients, but they had no idea. So I realized it was really important to put this stuff down for so many people that didn't grow up like I did and didn't necessarily know what was happening. My godson, who I was talking about before, I remember once I made him stuffed artichokes, and I went in the kitchen to start making something else, and I came back and they were eating the whole thing. And I was just like, what? I'm like, they're what? We can't eat the whole leaf? I'm like, no, what is that? It didn't even occur to me that I'd have to explain to somebody how to eat an artichoke, but he had never seen an artichoke before. And this is what it was. So I wanted to write that stuff down. And I think that the ancestors really appreciate us cooking for them, not just at Samhain like now all year, but especially at this time of year. And they're used to certain things, and they're used to certain things tasting a certain way. So I wanted to put some of these recipes down that people could make for their ancestors, for the tradition. There's recipes in there for Marie Laveau, classic New Orleans recipes and things like that, that I think maybe if you aren't familiar with the city or aren't familiar with that style of cooking, things like filet, which I've grown before I realized it was sassafras powder, but magically, it has its own energy, and we put it in almost everything down here in the food. So it just allows people to have a better understanding of the magic and of the history and the heritage that's happening. And I did a whole heritage recipe. If somebody doesn't want to buy the cookbook, although it's online and it's cheap, but there's still a whole bunch of recipes on my blog, Voodoo Universe. And I did a whole heritage recipes series. I also did a whole tarot and food series that people can see on my YouTube channel, where I did a different recipe for each major arcana card, which was a lot of fun. Because again, I wanted people to know, okay, what if I keep getting the strength card? What does this mean? I don't really understand what these words are saying to me. Well, you can make this fortitude fried chicken recipe and understand how you feel after you've eaten this fried chicken classic heritage recipe and what strength that gives you, and better understand the card and the meaning and what it's trying to tell you. So that was a lot of fun. And I think we're going to do another one soon with cocktails, but don't quote me on it.
Yeah, that sounds great. No, I agree with you. I was a scout leader for BSA for 19 years. And my children had to learn to cook. I owned a catering business, so you don't have to pay them if they're your children. So
That's right.
it's slave labor. So my kids can cook. But no, there's a lot of people who don't understand that as we cook, we're actually doing spell work, because that's what we're doing. And your spirituality and your cooking is like, I mean, I describe everything in flavors. I cook. It's so vibrant. Your recipes come to actually life when you read them. I was like, oh yeah, I need this one. I need this one. And yeah, I have the book now. I noticed that being Italian, we tend to cook, and that's our thing. I have known many African Americans, and they're so similar. Like, you cannot leave their house unless you eat. Like in Italy, it's very much an offense if you leave and not eat. And I've been with many African Americans who are like, "You're not going to eat. What's wrong? Are you okay? Are you sick? Do we need to call the doctor?" You know. But I do you feel that is just like a huge part of spirituality?
It is definitely, and the Black side of my family was the same as the Sicilian side of my family. And we never, it's so hard for me now because I'm living alone. It was always, you had to cook for 10 people. My father had 6 brothers and sisters. My grandfather had 6 brothers and sisters, so it was always, you were making a huge spread no matter what. So scaling it back is always going to be a little bit difficult for me. And my daughter used to say when she was little, she's like, I don't know what mom does. She just goes in the kitchen and when there's no food in there, but she comes back with more food. She just like mixes stuff up and it appears like the loaves and the fishes or something. Like I could turn a little bit of food into a lot of food. But you need to sometimes. But it really is an integral part of everything that we do. And it feeds your soul. And like you said, it is a magical act. And we have to do it at least 2, probably 3 or more times a day, most of us. And why not take that opportunity to do something extra magical with your life? You're going to be eating anyway. So why not have that mindset that what you're going to be doing is guiding you towards where you need to be and where you're going to have the most positive, best experience. And that's really how I internalize it. And I think it was funny to me once. I had my father's sister came out for a ritual once, and it was an ancestor ritual, and I'd made all these dishes, and she started eating, and she looked at me, she's like, this is just like your great grandmother's recipe for, I think it was corn mok choux. And I was like, wow, I never met this woman. I never heard of this woman. I didn't see any recipes from this woman. I don't even know if I knew her name before she sat down and my auntie was telling me. So it was just amazing to me that through the spirituality, the recipe could come back. I made it exactly how she would have wanted it. And that just made me so proud and made me feel like I was on the right track because I made it the way I was supposed to make it, even though I didn't know, but somewhere I knew.
Well, it says that in July of 2013 that you had a voodoo zombie silent rave ritual. Could you tell us about that and something about a confusion with the thriller flash mob?
Well, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I think originally it was going on this idea that so many people, I mean, as much as I'm an old hippie witch from way back who actually did do Dead Tour, I'm also a techno witch. You know what I mean? I went to film school before I went to school for anthropology, and I was always trying to figure things out and had that kind of black nerd blurred kind of feeling going on. So I think that I wanted to capitalize on that and do something that was more technological with a ritual.
Mhm.
And people were talking about silent raves. And for those of you that don't know, that's where you go to a rave, which is a big, crazy, insane party. And you have headphones on. So everybody's listening to their own music and everybody's in their own world. So, in a way, that kind of to me felt like zombies, that people were sort of disembodied because they were in their own heads and they were having their own experience. And too many times that's what I saw when I was at open ritual in the pagan community, that people were, instead of participating as one big group, everybody was still in their own heads and thinking about, oh, I really want to, get out of here and eat, or I really want to go drink, or I really want to get in this person's pants who's on the other side of the circle, or drama, drama, drama. And people didn't want to focus on what was happening. So I thought if we did the silent rave, then everybody would choose what their focus was going to be. And instead of making it about little things, it could all be turned inward and in on themselves. And then as a fun thing, since we were doing zombies, we figured we would do, the thriller flash mob. And we rehearsed it all week and we did it fine that morning, but at like the lunch counter thing at the event. But when it came time to the ritual midnight that night, we completely messed it up and it was hilarious. And I still remember bits of it. Like we're like, Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I mean, that event is it was at Brushwood Folklore Center, and the event was Sirius Rising, which the event has always been a little quirky, a little strange, things like that. So it allowed me to do something that was really fun. We broadcast Thriller up on the big screen, and we had somebody doing Vincent Price into the microphone, and it was a lot of fun.
I understand about the filming because I have a master's degree in business entertainment from Full Sail University. So I'm like you. I'm really into the filming and all of that. Um, So you do, from what I understand, you do choreography as well. Do you believe that spirit and choreography or dance mix?
Oh, definitely. In all the ATRs, Haitian Vodou, New Orleans Voodoo, we have ritual dances that we do in order to honor the Loa and the Orisha. And there's a way in which you can access the divine by going through these ritual movements and doing them over and over again and doing them in a specific way at a specific time in a specific place. And I became choreographer for jazz legend Dr. John, who a lot of people know. I dedicated the Orisha's book to him because he passed last year, June, and I miss him terribly. No offense to his children or grandchildren, but he was like a dad to me. And he wanted me to do the original dances of Marie Laveau. And he called me up and he said, "Do you know anybody who could do it?" And I had a minute and I was like, "Wait a minute, I can do it." So I choreographed the dances. And I was blessed enough to go on the road with him for a little over a year. And we did it at Bonnaroo and we did it at Jazz Fest. And it was so wonderful. And to be able to bring that to, like I said, to crowds of, thousands and thousands of people at Bonnaroo was just so beautiful, so beautiful. And he was just so kind and welcoming. And we did rituals on stage. And it was just, it was so lovely. It was really one of the best times of my life. And it was an honor to be able to show that to people because we're talking earlier about how voodoo gets portrayed in the media and things like that. And or witchcraft, and there's so much negative and there's so much that's just so wrong. And it was so nice to be able to go and be up there and show 10,000 people, this is what it looked like then, and this is what it looks like now, and to share that with them.
Awesome. Awesome. I do agree with that. Um, we are not shown sometimes in the brightest of lights. And what is shown is so confusions, like, like for example, with some zombies, people think, oh, you go into a voodoo ritual and you become a zombie. It's like, it's like it doesn't
Yep.
exactly work that way.
Yes, definitely. I've had people show up at ritual and think they were supposed to take all their clothes off and start having sex. And I'm just like, no, this is
That's a
not what
Pam
that's
thing.
about.
That's a Pam thing.
Not at my ritual. Sorry, Pam.
That's so funny because for years, we did practice skyclad, and it's like people just assume, and I'm like, well, the tradition I'm with now, I'm wearing what, 10 layers of stuff.
Yeah. They
You don't
had
know
to
how
physically make her put on clothes.
it was like, dude, 10 layers, huh? A little warm. But no, you're right. I mean, we do get portrayed so caricature. Even Baltimore has a very large, as you know, voodoo population. And it's like for a long time, we're not getting together. We did the Washington Baltimore Pagan Clergy Association, where we started gathering people of different spiritual paths so that we could actually find each other if we needed to. If someone has an issue with voodoo, what do I do? I, as a witch, do not know, but I do know of somebody who does know. So we kind of did a networking that way. We actually published, for a long time, we published people's names who wanted to with what they practice so that we could find people. Because if someone knows you're a witch, they assume that you know all of that.
Right.
And you're like going, no, this is beyond my scope. Let me call.
Yeah.
And I make a phone call to
Oh, that's
get
good.
someone from Voodoo because I'm like going, uh, and we've gotten the call, someone has passed or something has happened. They have an altar set up in their house. What do we do? And I'm like, well, do you know what they practice? Well, tell me what's on the altar. And if it's stuff, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, no, on me. Let me make a phone call.
Right.
Even different witchcraft, Egyptian, Celtic, it's very different. And I think having conversations like this is absolutely awesome. We're actually bringing out our similarities, but also some of our interesting concepts so that people now know that, we don't know it all. We have experts, like we come to you
Sure.
for those kinds of questions that we have. And it's kind of cool. I love learning about new stuff. It's very eye-opening, and it shows more of our similarities, I think, than our differences.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Nikki, are you on?
Yes,
Okay. I look like I froze again. Sorry, we had
you
a we had
did
an issue last-
momentarily. Just to let you know, Lilith, the zombie fairies attacked us during one of the episodes.
Oh no.
So,
Yeah,
we-
thanks to Tim.
poor Tim.
We filmed the seance on Saturday. We did the show on Sunday, and we had techno issues.
Wow.
So now I panic every time I see something not moving. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay, so you're back, Nikki. Okay.
All right. Well, it's time for us to say goodbye to Miss Lilith. Thank you so much, honey, for being here. You were an absolute joy, and you gave us so much information, and I do appreciate it. And you continue to make a difference in your life and in the lives of others.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, Pam decided that I should do the witch's cabinet this time. She kind of wanted me to do something. So we're going to go to do the witch's cabinet. Let's see. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna stop my video here. There we go. In today's witch's cabinet, we will be discussing ancestor altars. So why do you want to honor your ancestors? Well, I believe, and Pam would agree, that in order to move forward, we must know where we came from. And it was George Santayana that said, and I quote, "Those who do not learn from their history are doomed to repeat it," unquote. So whether you like your family or not, they've taught you lessons and shaped your life in significant ways, ranging from your behavior down to your thoughts. So just because they passed on does not mean that the love or the lessons stop. And in the spirit world, our ancestors continue to teach us lessons, provide us with opportunities, and can assist us with our magical manifestation. They have a vivid interest in our continued affairs, for they want us to be able to prosper and survive. And after all, you are their legacy, and people want to be remembered long after their lives end, which is the definition of true immortality. Ancestor altars vary depending on your personal and cultural beliefs, the space you have, what items you possess, and the personal creativity in the design. The altar can be elaborate as a whole room or as simple as lighting one candle or somewhere in between. The one thing you need to remember is that the altar is for them, not you. When creating an ancestor altar, there's three things you need to think about. Number one, the amount of space you have. Number two, is it permanent or portable? And this actually largely depends on the size of your space and your living situation. And number three, what you possess that you can be able to place on the altar as an offering. This is my ancestor altar. So let's begin with space. You must cleanse the space physically and spiritually. You can spiritually cleanse the space with incense or some type of spiritual cleaning mixture like Hoyt's cologne or Florida water. And for those of you who do not know or haven't even heard of Florida water is not the actual water that comes from Florida. Depending on spiritual and cultural beliefs, the altar cloth can be in a variety of colors. The basic colors are black, white, and red. Some cultures, like the Mexican Day of the Dead, place a variety of colors on their ancestral altar. No matter what the color is, place the altar cloth on the space you choose to place your altar. Some belief systems state that you should only have blood ancestors on the altar, and then there should be a separate altar for everyone else outside the family you want to honor. Now, in theory, this is great. However, these days, everybody has a blood family and a chosen family. And a chosen family are people who are not of blood descendants to you. But you know what? In reality, not everyone has a space or a living situation in which they can have two altars to honor the dead. So for me personally, I barely have room for one altar. If you're a part of my blood family or my chosen family, you will be on my altar for the dead. And if you have them, place the pictures of your ancestors on your altar. And these pictures do not necessarily have to be in frames. You want to place candles to honor your ancestors on the altar. So you want to fix the candles with oils or herbs, and common colors are black and white, but they can be other colors depending on your culture and personal beliefs. Like for instance, for an ancestor's birthday, if I want to honor that ancestor, I would use whatever the ancestor's favorite color is and be able to honor them on their birthday. But you can use one candle for all of them or candles for each ancestor. New ancestors, a tea light candle is lit for each one of them. Now, the candles you see on my altar, Moonlight Potions and Charms, has all of them, and they're already fixed up for you and ready to go. All you got to do is just cut the wick and light it, and boom, bam, boom, boom, let's go. And you can those on www.moonlightpotionscharms.com. The offerings for the ancestors can be anything ranging from food, drink, cigarettes, a favorite toy, liquor, doesn't matter. Now, each offering depends on what the ancestor liked in life. And this is the reason why I place a plate, bowl, spoon, and fork on my altar. Now, if you have children who are ancestors, which we all do, place some type of small toy on the altar for them. That's what the little frogs represent on mine. And since most of us have ancestors who were of Christian faith, place a cross or a Bible on the altar for them as well. And you might want to place other religious items depending on their religion. Like, for instance, if you have Jews that are in your family, you may want to place the Star of David on there. But you also want to make sure that you have water, because water is essential to life. So make sure you have water on your altar. I have a notebook on my ancestor altar. And in this notebook, I list the names, dates of birth and death, and any stories that have heard or that I have myself about the ancestor. Now, this is a way of not only honoring your ancestors, but keeping their memories alive for future generations. The portion of my altar that is on the white altar cloth is for the ancestors who need to be elevated. But I will cover that in another witch's cabinet on our upcoming Center Morte episode. Now, I mentioned ancestor traveling altars. Now, in the previous witch's cabinet, traveling altars are for people who have a small amount of space, cannot keep a permanent altar for some reason, and or they're traveling. These altars are small, quick, and convenient. So the Moonlight Potions and Charms Ancestors Altar on the Go come in a variety of small, medium, and large. And you can check them out on www.moonlightpotionscharms.com. And that is all for today's Witch's Cabinet. Thank you, and back to you, Pam. Oh, that was awesome. Awesome. Pam, you there?
That was great. That gave us a little information. It also is going to help out those who are new to traditions and trying to understand what's going on. Another reminder, guys, we have 3 days of ancestral offerings. You have October 31st, November 1st, and November 2nd. So there's 3 days for honoring your ancestors.
That's right, 3 days. Well, that ends up concluding our Witch Hat Chats this week.
And we've
And
had a wonderful time.
we always have a blast. And so join us next week for our special Samhain Halloween edition. Wear a mask, stay social distance, and keep your furry babies and yourselves safe. You have an absolute blessed day. Thank you, Pam. You're
Thank
awesome.
you, Nikki. See you next time, guys.